Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are excited to bring everyone back together from the Velo by Wix Hackathon that we just had at Topcoder during the Topcoder Open. So our $10,000 Velo by Wix Hackathon. We have the Velo team here, the judges, and we want to have a conversation around the hackathon and also our experience hosting it, the submissions that came in, the amazing winners and outcomes that were part of the hackathon, but then also all of you out there that are joining today, any questions you have for the Velo team, any comments, suggestions, things that you experienced during the hackathon, as much as we can do this virtually. It would be great for you to be able to ask questions and share your thoughts to the team. So with us today, we have Meredith, who has been with us in the past as part of a Velo by Wix webinar. And we also have Thomas, and we also have Richard. The three of them are coming from the Wix team, and many of you know me, but if you do not know me, I'm Adam with Topcoder. And I wanted to share real fast. 1 second. I think we can just jump in. I was going to share the hackathon, but I can't share my screen yet. I will do that in a second, just to remind everyone what it was. But I guess I'll talk through the description. So kind of reminder of it was a 48-hour, $10,000 hackathon focused on leveraging the Velo platform and technology. And our goal of this was to focus on a problem statement that was around an AI transcription service. So this idea was that you're an entrepreneur, you notice that voice transcription services are in high demand by content creators, and you think to yourself, why not make a friendly AI transcription service? So using Velo by Wix, build a site that allows users to upload a video or an audio file. And when the transcription is completed, make it available for the user as part of the UI. And so the goal here was using the Velo by Wix platform to the best of your quick ramp into the platform or your existing knowledge of the platform. And then the key piece here is also optimization and the best practices using the platform. So we threw in a small twist around this idea of the spirit of code golf. So the idea is that within this hackathon, we wanted to use the least amount of UI elements and written code to create a user-friendly and performance efficient and visually appealing website. So let me just remind everyone what this looked like. So here was the hackathon. If you're able to see my prizes, and we had 387 Topcoder members register for it and 28 submissions. So great job, everyone jumping in and participating. And we also had in the beginning a lounge as part of the Topcoder Open, where we invited members to ask questions of the Velo team, and then of course dive into actually coding in those 48 hours. Okay, so Velo team right now, what's your initial thought on the experience? It's been a week later, or probably 2 weeks later, right? What's kind of your initial take on the 48 hours and jumping in and judging? Meredith, you want to
Sure,
start?
yeah. So I think we were super impressed with the submissions that we saw. We saw a lot of varied usages of transcription services, which I think I personally wasn't expecting. I thought everyone kind of would stick with the standards of like a Google or an AWS service. It even looks like some of the users created their own transcription service. So if that was you, we would love to learn more about kind of what you did there and share your experience with that even more. One of the things that we took away as a big lesson learned is code golf maybe doesn't work on the Velo platform, just because I think a lot of users got obsessed with the idea of writing as little code as possible on the platform, which was counterintuitive to the hack. So I think moving forward, we're going to look at efficiency instead of minimal code usage instead, just to make it a little bit more clear and make sure that you get to utilize the platform, but in the most efficient and effective way possible. So definitely some lessons learned on our side, but overall we were super impressed with a lot of the sites we saw. When we talk a little bit more about the judging, we'll talk about, I guess, some of our experiences going through all of the sites too, but we just want to applaud everyone who gave a submission. It was awesome to see everything that you created in 48 hours on Velo. And the hope was to show you how easy it is to get started on this platform and build something powerful and professional in just 2 days. And we feel like a lot of users were able to accomplish that. So great job, everybody.
I guess I'll jump in.
Yeah.
So looking at all the different submissions that we got, it was really interesting to see how different developers really got into the Velo API. So especially if it was your first time encountering the Velo API, I could see that you guys put a lot of effort into seeing how to code efficiently, like using the tools that we already have. And it was also nice seeing people from so many different backgrounds coming in and trying to like code the solutions. Like we even had a winner that was actually coded with editor X. So it was very interesting to see just the various different people who joined and seeing all the different types of code that you guys came up with.
Yeah, totally agree with Meredith and Thomas. What impressed me the most was that no one user had the same code. Everyone was a little bit different. There was a lot of creativity. And there are some things that I learned when I was actually reviewing some of the applications, so which was really cool. Good job, everyone.
Thank you to the three of you. And I know part of this was also, we had a time frame of the 48 hours, but also a time frame of judging, right? Because we wanted to make sure that we had the winner announcement as part of the Topcoder closing ceremonies. So, I think also the three of you spending your Friday, looking at 20 some submissions and diving into, how people coded things, how efficient they were with it, how great things looked or didn't look, how did the services actually work, right? Were you able to upload and interact and do the transcription? So before we jump into that piece, one other thing I wanted to touch on was shortly after we kicked off, I think the spirit of the hackathon, everyone's looking to kind of almost hack the hack, right? So for everyone out there, what we saw from the setup side or from the judging side was definitely a rush to do the code golf, a rush to like, how can we build everything not on Velo and make sure that everything was like, we barely show any code, we barely show any weight, just like, can we make this very efficient? Can the three of you kind of talk to kind of like what your initial impression was of that? Because I know we had to jump into the forums and clarify to everyone, like, wait a second. Any thoughts on kind of the hack in the beginning?
I thought it was kind of funny. This was my first time being on the judging side of a hackathon like this, and it was kind of hilarious to me to see how literal the interpretation was of the code golf. And it was like, well, you're still writing code. So like, if you're going to write it on a different platform, like you still have to submit it. I think was my first reaction of like, you can't just write no code on the platform and then write everything somewhere else. So I just was kind of amused at how intense everyone like kind of took that requirement. And especially when you looked at the judging criteria, that wasn't one of the top weighted judging criterias too. So, I mean, as I mentioned, it was a lesson to learn from our side too. Maybe code, like minimum code, least amount of code is not the right phrasing moving forward for a hackathon, but focusing more again on code efficiency and like code performance instead is definitely something that we're going to take as a lesson to learn and improve for our next hack. But I remember, because I'm also in California, so you guys started the hack pretty early. from my side, it was 5 a.m. here when the hack started, and getting up and getting into the lounge and hearing that this was what was happening was just kind of a funny way to start my day.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine. I think also part of it for me was also showing just kind of the passion of the community to like, okay, again, how can I win this, right? But how can I also be efficient, because there is this kind of twist in the request, right? And especially since on Topcoder we run competitions every day, and it's typically like, what's the say from a member view, what's the thing that I can do to make sure I can get in and win this thing and be the most efficient. So everyone definitely gravitated towards that piece of it. So Richard or Thomas, any other thoughts on that, on kind of the hack part of the hackathon?
I think you hit it like right on the head. It just shows like the passion that the Topcoder community has towards like the challenges. Because that morning I got like interesting questions that I didn't even think of when we were like designing the actual hackathon. So it was really interesting to see that you guys like jumped right in and you already wanted to see like how you guys can like create the most efficient thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, totally agree.
Okay. So the next piece here was the judging. So I was touching on that a second ago, but like the judging experience. So you did have to clear your Friday to jump in and look at 20 submissions. Not something you don't. And then of course, from my side, instruct you on like what I think would be the kind of the best way to do this, because it is a bit of a speed judging. And it's not in the Topcoder world. We typically have a process, and we had some of the members ask about this in the competition, or like, will there be an appeals? Will there be like additional steps? But being that this is a hackathon and very straightforward in how we are going to, look at the judging, the criteria, the three of you had to jump in and do this. So can you kind of talk about like your initial like thinking, like, oh, wow, I have 20 things I need to look at. Where do I start? Like, Meredith, what was kind of your initial, like, Adam, what are you showing me here? Like, can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, first off, we were super excited to see we had 20 submissions, and see, just kind of do an initial glance through all of the sites, see a lot of varied design work. We definitely can see the designers were in the challenge, and some coders were in the challenge too, just based off of kind of the projects that were submitted. But the first thing that we had to tackle was, okay, like now we got to prep all of these file types and make sure that we have video and audio ready to go. One of the first things that I stumbled upon as a judge is the audio file that I had available was 6 minutes long, and that took a while to transcribe on a lot of sites. So I was like, okay, maybe we should like scale it back and do something a little bit shorter, just so the transcriptions can run a little bit faster. Just from a judging point of view, a lot of people's weren't like that slow, but just it takes, the larger the file, the longer it's going to take. And then we were trying to get through these as fast as possible on Friday to make sure that we had winners for you guys on Saturday. So I think that was one of the first pitfalls I ran into, is my files were too large to get through this efficiently. So we kind of came together, and Rich recorded some videos for us to work with, and we were able to do that a little bit faster and get those videos down a little bit shorter, just to make sure that we were able to get through everything a little bit faster. But my first impression was I was really excited by the number of submissions and really excited to kind of dive into how people use the product. So it was awesome to see so many. Wish we had more time to judge and like could have really gone in depth on every single site. But again, we wanted to get those winners out as soon as possible for the competition. So yeah.
My initial impression while judging was just that it was interesting seeing how the prompt, which we thought, well, I personally thought it was like locked down, we would like get exactly one product out of it. It ended up being something that like inspired you guys to create so many different types of solutions. So we had solutions that were like sites, we had solutions that were more widget type like applications that you could like take and like, because they were modular, put it on other websites. And so it was really interesting to each one and then just see such a different type of web. And then like look at that and interpret that using the rules, because the requirements were so open that it allowed you guys a lot of freedom, and we could really, that you guys had a lot of fun like building these, because you guys put in a lot of effort and we saw things that like we didn't expect. So it was definitely a good experience, like seeing all these submissions.
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately for me, the way that we, I guess, reviewed some of these projects were divided them up, and I think we had about 6 projects each. Unfortunately for me, the first 4 did not work for me. And so I only was working with 2 that actually worked. And I think what I struggled with was I was making sure that like the files that I was uploading, it wasn't corrupted on my end. I had Meredith and Thomas review them for me. But other than that, it was overall, it was really good.
Okay, so when we talk about the judging, I'm going to look at the spec here. The judging criteria was number 1 was functional requirements with 40% weight on that. Then we had minimum code usage, 15% weight. We had minimum Wix elements, 15% weight, and then we had the design. So as you guys were judging, did you feel yourself kind of like, I know we have the weights, but like, you know, was there certain things that were standing out to you? Were you kind of gravitating towards like, definitely, obviously you want to check to make sure that the files work. I mean, it has to work, right? But then the functional piece, right? But then when you start looking at the design and you start looking at the Wix elements, and I know, you know, someone did use the X editor, right? So was there like, because I know when I judge things, you know, there tends to be like you start seeing things or you start noticing. Was there kind of anything that kind of stood out when you were judging and trying to compare it to the scorecard? Is there any kind of things that come to mind when you guys were looking at those things?
Yeah, I think so. As you can see, like the next highest weight we had was design. And so sites that were designed really well started jumping out to a couple of the sites. We all kind of came together, and every single one of ours first reaction was like, whoa, this is like really professional looking. If I ran into this on a Google search, I would use this website because it feels like really professional look and feel. And so we started noticing design pattern. Once we kind of ran through everything, tested to make sure that we could upload both audio and video files for the transcription, and those successfully outputted something, we started narrowing down based off of how professional the site felt. So if we were to run into this, would we trust this service? Does it have like a nice clean UI? One of them, we saw, we're like, oh, we could totally repackage this as a widget and sell it on the Wix marketplace, and someone could just like plop it on their existing Wix site, which we thought was like a really cool interpretation too. So I think design for me was like the next thing that I started looking at. And also it's the first thing you see when you open a page. So even though it wasn't our highest weight judging criteria, it was definitely kind of sitting there in the back of the mind of like, oh, like this is a site that I wouldn't feel like was a phishing site if I was to land on it, or if it was to get emailed to me, or if someone sent this link to me.
Yeah, I agree with Meredith. Like for me, a really big part of the criteria was the design and the user experience. So I try to make sure that like when we're looking at different submissions, we would choose the ones that had the best user experience for the people that were using it, because we wanted it to be something that could like people could actually use and people would be able to use in a way that's like convenient. And so some examples of that were, we saw websites where they took the history of every transcription and left it on the site. There were some that like did live transcription, which was really cool. So like as the file was transcribing, you would see it happen there live. And a lot of people used a lot of the Wix elements actually to show that the page was loading. So it was really interesting seeing you guys like dive into that.
Yeah, I disagree with Meredith and Thomas on that one.
Okay. So I'd like to jump into the submissions. I don't know, Meredith, if there's any other direction you want to go right now, but I was thinking maybe we jump into kind of looking at the submissions and kind of talking through the feedback. Also seeing if anyone out here has questions. We do have a quick question from someone's asking, as a beginner, is there a stack that is a good stack to know to get into Velo? So do you see that question?
Yeah, yes, I see that question in the chat. So in terms of a stack to learn to get started with Velo, to make it easier to learn the platform, it is an entirely JavaScript-based environment. So if you get a pretty good foundational understanding of just vanilla JS, it should be a pretty easy transition. I like to liken learning a new API, because anything that isn't standard vanilla JS is going to be documented in our API documentation. And so it's going to be the same as if you were learning to work with a new API as well, when you're translating your vanilla JavaScript knowledge over into Velo. And then also we are working on some learning materials to help the transition from a JavaScript background to Velo, because we know there's a little bit of stuff that is a little wonky when you come over from a JavaScript environment into Velo. There's certain things that you can't do anymore. So we are working on learning materials for that as well. But definitely vanilla JS is a great place to start to get comfortable in the Velo ecosystem.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Okay, so I was thinking, so do you have a preference? Want to start at number 6 or start at number 1 or?
I don't know, I guess bottom to top. Yeah, we can start at number 6.
Okay. So our 6th place, I'll share here. So 1 second. So 6th place was Karm out of Indonesia. And he had Scent and See, which was, I believe, probably our favorite design from a judging standpoint. And Karm, I believe you use the editor X. So yes. Team, like what were you thinking as you guys were judging?
This was like hands down one of our favorite designs. We thought it was really nice and simple, but still user friendly, because I think sometimes simple can hurt users of the site sometimes too, but we felt that this was really clear, really professional look and feel to the site. The only reason this one didn't get scored higher is because we had problems with the transcription. I personally could never get my video to finish transcribing. I just kept getting the dots, which was a really awesome and unique way of doing a loading screen, which I thought was really cool. But I never actually got to the transcription. Both Thomas and Rich did get completed transcriptions for audio and visual. So it did pass the functional requirements and get full marks for them. Or I think we got docked a little bit for performance on functionality because it was one of the slower ones. But sorry, I have my notes up here.
Yeah,
I don't know why I'm.
Yeah, so some of the thoughts you guys had was like this was one of the more heavily coded sites, but it was modular and clean. So like, you definitely saw a really good intention on this, but it seemed like it took really long time to transcribe.
Yeah, just to add to Meredith, I had a 13-second video and it took almost 11 minutes to finish transcribing.
Okay. So overall though, like this, I think this one definitely stood out. So Karm, if you happen to be out in the audience, awesome job on this and congratulations on 6th place. If you do happen to have any questions, feel free to add them to the chat, okay? While we are virtual, we definitely want this session to be a feedback session. So as we are all talking to you right now, we definitely want, you guys to be able to post and let us know what questions you guys have. So coming in at 5th place was AI powered transcription. And this was from FC Toriel out of India. And so, you guys thought this was super simple and handled all types of transcriptions very well. And, you would have liked to see a little bit more on the, end user focus and instructions, but, your feedback was this used the least amount of code. So it was very lightweight. So any thoughts on the judging and your guys' experience with this one?
So oh, sorry, Meredith, you can go.
No, go ahead, Thomas. So I'm trying to find the doc.
Oh, okay, thank you. So for this one, the user design was really nice, and the transcription time was relatively quick. The main thing for this one that we saw was the API keys. I believe they were plain, so they were just hard-coded into the JavaScript, and there's actually a API called Wix Secrets, which allows you to refer to API keys using like a variable. And that would have been really helpful because we don't really want to expose like any API keys to the user. So that way they don't like abuse your like servers and like use cost you a bunch of money basically. But then again, remember that we just most likely this might have been the first time that you use Velo. And so there's plenty of things to discover in the Velo API. So like every day I still learn about new things because it's always changing. They're always adding new things and doing it in different ways. So overall, really good job. But that was the only thing that I remember specifically from this submission.
Okay, I think they used Sonic's API for the transcribing. So I think the three of you mentioned like you were kind of surprised by the different APIs used for transcribing. So probably as we go through these, if there's any of those, if you remember anything around that, that'd be probably good information to share also. Okay, let's look at if I can find my screen. Let's look at number 4, which was online transcription. And this is from longtime Topcoder member and competitor Jingli Wu out of China. And so you guys said this one clocked in as your fastest transcription service. And I think this is the one where they might have built their own backend service. So I think you guys had some questions around that or what it was. What additional kind of judging feedback you guys have on this one?
Yeah, so I think the main judging feedback we had for this one was around the design. While it was really nice and simple, the background is a little bit distracting. And then also we're using a lot of different fonts here. So it's not like the most user-friendly in terms of kind of like the today's standard, but we really enjoyed that it was supported multiple languages and the transcription was absolutely one of the fastest we saw. We aren't 100% sure how this user created that because all we saw in the background was like a server address, which I think was also one of our feedback points is, again, be really careful with what you're storing as plain text in your application, because then if somebody was able to maliciously get into your site, they'd be able to hack your server because your IP address was stored in plain text in your public files, which are public. So just be careful with that moving forward. But really cool. And if you are on the call and want to share a little bit about what you built, that would be amazing, because it was the only one where it wasn't like a pre-built service, at least from our understanding.
Jingli Wu also was our Topcoder development champion. So not only did he take 4th place in the hackathon, he was also competing at the Topcoder Open and did an amazing job, took the $10,000 prize. So
that's amazing.
He had a very good Topcoder Open. So I don't know if you're out there, but if you feel like asking any questions or letting us know what the service that you ended up creating, that'd be great. And if you end up seeing this later, let us know, or I'll reach out to you. Okay. Number 3, we have Wix Scriber. So this was kind of our, I think when we looked at this one from the visuals, that had a very, I have to say, kind of a retro feel, a retro website feel. I don't know, the DBloss was our 3rd place winner out of the UK. So this is his submission. I know I had fun looking at this one as it had this kind of throwback design. Not sure if that was your intention or not, but that was definitely an impression that came across. Any feedback or what did you guys think about this one that made it be your 3rd place?
I feel like I pushed for this one, so I'll talk about it. So I really like this one because I felt like the person who made this had a lot of fun designing this. They really like went all out to see what are the different like Wix elements that they could use on their site. On top of that, I felt like it had really good user experience. So when you load a audio file on here, you can see live like exactly what the person, I don't think it'll work right now because I think it's at like back end like off right now, but it would show you live exactly like what was low, and then it would like scroll you down and you would see like the history of whatever you uploaded. And the code was relatively like clean. So overall, I just felt like this was a really solid contender, and it felt like the person who made this had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think I pushed for this one as well as one of the at least top 6 was. I felt like out of all the submissions that I saw, they had like a similar look and feel, but this one kind of stood out as it being different, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, the team and you, Adam, too. The retro feel was really kind of nostalgic for us. And also they used a lot of different Velo APIs too. Like they even got into the animations API, which was really cool. So we just felt like the joy from this project and really wanted to reward that and the fun that they had. And again, to Thomas's point, this was the only one that did a live transcription, which was a really cool feature to add in. And even though your transcription times weren't fastest, like because we were looking at them live, it distracted the user, which we thought was a really cool user experience.
And I think you also mentioned that the storage of the files was actually in the Wix database, so you thought that was a nice touch to the experience. So definitely leveraging, as you said, the API and the Wix technology.
Yeah, and looking into it, we were able to see kind of what, like I could understand what the next steps of this application were. They were storing things in the database and also setting it up for user accounts, so you could do longer files and retrieve your older files. So you could see all of that design work in the code coming in the back end, where they were setting this up for future success too, which I thought was really fun.
Awesome. Okay, so coming in at second place, we have M Bagel, who I do believe is here on the call. So if you happen to have any comments or questions, he is out of the UAE. And this is our second place with Transcriber. And I do believe one of the first thoughts on this one was that it was super clean, but could also just feels like a widget you could put into a website, right? So it was packaged up in a nice way that was very widget friendly. Any additional thoughts and feedback?
Yeah, my first reaction was definitely that like this is ready to go. We could package this up as is and sell this as a widget on the Wix marketplace, which I thought was a really cool interpretation of the project. I don't know if that was intentional, but it definitely was something that I felt was like ready to go, ready to be sold and put out there. It worked really nice and cleanly. Everything was really like efficient. They were one of the few ones that allowed you to recognize multiple speakers and with that toggle there. And so it was a really clean interpretation of the challenge and really well executed, which is why it scored so high.
Yeah, so it worked very well for both audio and video. You guys thought that the code was clean and modular. So getting into like how they built it and being efficient with it. So M Bagel, I think you're out there. Do you have any questions, any thoughts? I thought I saw you. Feel free to ask the judges any questions. And we are going to go to number 1. So this is Deep Script AI. Let me move my window. So Deep Script AI was from S. Deep Kumar out of India. So I think overall, this one was definitely the site that felt like you could package this up, and like I think the comment was if you Googled transcription services and this came up, you would feel this was a trustworthy website, and that the transcriptions were very fast and clear, and the file types and sizes were all successfully transcribed. So I think you guys had some comments around code improvements and authorization keys. You guys want to kind of touch on that?
Yeah, so because of the way we assigned the rubric, design and functionality were the biggest 2 parts. So that was like 70% of it already. This website fully met those requirements, and we felt like the user experience was really good. But when we looked into the code, we saw that again the API keys were stored in plain text, and there could have been some more use of the Wix API or the Velo API, I mean. But it was still really nice to see the fact that you guys were able to do this in 48 hours again. So we saw various use of the API, and we're sure that if you had more time to you would have developed this out like fully to be like a model Velo website.
So when you guys were looking at the rubric and I was asking you got to pick 6. And of course, we have a lot of big money going out here. Were there kind of like any big debates between, I think, you mentioned that the Wix Scriber was one that you kind of championed for 3rd place. Was there anything among the 6 that were kind of like hot topics between the 3 of you?
Where to place Wix Scriber was definitely one of the hot topics, because while we really enjoyed the nostalgic design, it definitely like maybe isn't up to today's design standards. So we had to like kind of duke it out amongst ourselves of what we meant in terms of the design requirement. But I think we ended up kind of just going with our gut feeling on that of we really enjoyed it. We thought it was fun, and that like the joy was the more important portion of the design, as opposed to like, if you were to Google it and find this website today, like, would you trust it? Probably not with Wix Scriber, but we felt the joy of the site, and that was kind of the more important factor in design that we ended up going with.
Okay.
Like part of the reason that we had like a debate about that was because of the interpretation of the functional like requirements themselves. So we were thinking like was a modular like widget like thing just as functional as like a full website? And we came to the conclusion that yes, because we actually have like the Wix marketplace, or I mean app marketplace, where people can create widgets to sell and use like on other people's websites and like make revenue from that. And so the modular interpretation of like creating a audio transcription widget is a valid one, and that's why we wanted to recognize the 2nd place winner.
Got it. I always find it when judging with multiple people, I tend to end up judging design contests and things like that. There tend to be nuances, or again, if you happen to see something that is used often that maybe wasn't necessarily an initial criteria or things like that, it ends up being kind of a debate, right? What's the thing that you're gonna climb the mountain for and make sure that you think this is awesome. I think post hackathon, the 3 of you had some comments around like just, and we mentioned this a little earlier, but the variety of outcomes, the different approaches. We saw one competitor that used editor X. We're hoping to see more competitors use editor X. I think there's, in your feedback and the judging, there's like good use of the Wix components, or like I think as we just said on 3rd place, they did a great job of using APIs and using the platform. So can the 3 of you kind of talk about any of those aspects of your experience and what kind of stood out?
Yeah, I think so. The really interesting thing is, even on the ones that are fully baked sites, the number of components like isn't that much higher than someone who went with just a file upload button on their page, which I thought was really interesting. One of the reasons that Powered Transcription or online transcription ranked so high is because it had so few elements on the page. So it got a perfect score in terms of UI element usage. But then when you looked at something like the Deep Script AI, it really didn't have, for how much more fully baked the site looks, the number of UI elements isn't exponentially more than the more simple sites too, which I thought was really interesting to see how efficiently users were able to create professional feeling sites without having to have a lot of UI elements and be really UI heavy. So just kind of showing that simple UI and professional simple UI like aren't that far away from each other.
I thought something that was really interesting was that even though the functional requirements, I feel like were like a little bit unintentionally very loose, it also, the pro of that is that it gave you guys the ability to like be creative and solve this problem in many different ways that like we didn't anticipate. And so I feel like that's a good thing going forward to do, because it really gives you guys the ability to like interpret the functionality in a sort of open way. And then we can really see like your talent. We can see the fact that you guys put in work into learning like the Velo API, or some people really put in work into like using like the API to make like the front end look really nice. So that's what my interpretation of it.
Okay.
Yeah, Meredith and Thomas covered it all.
Okay, good.
I think it's also kind of funny that we saw the one of your guys' top designers ended up using Editor X, which is a designer created tool. So it's funny that the designer ended up on the designer tool.
Yeah, so that'd be Carm. So Carm, who is here with us right now, you know, he was one that uses the Editor X and is a previous Topcoder Open design champion. So Carm, I don't know if there's any other comments or questions that you happen to have. Please do post. I know some of you here were not the top 6, but you did submit and or you started trying out the hackathon. So Vanita, I know you were taking a crack at it for a little bit. Robinson, you know, do you have any questions about or comments about your experience? Did you think, you know, 48-hour hackathon during the Topcoder Open was a good idea, bad idea, a great experience? So things during the hackathon. We want more hackathons like this. Okay. So hey, Wix team, we want more hackathons. Meredith, is there anything, do you have any links or anything you want to share around like what you guys are doing with Velo?
Yes. Whoops, I forgot to grab it. So give me 1 second.
So so Carm, and here his real name's Panji. So he read a bit about the Editor X supports responsive design. So that's why he went with Editor X. So
Yeah, so our Editor X was in response to a lot of people said Wix doesn't allow you to create mobile designs or responsive first designs. And that was a challenge that the team was trying to solve. So that's what birthed Editor X. As you can see, like it's not 100% on parity with all of the UI elements and Velo support that this classic editor is, but it is one of our newer ones. I think it only came out last year. So we're rapidly working on getting it up to parity with the standard classic Wix editor. But yeah, Editor X is 100% designed around creating responsive design. So you definitely hit the nail on the head there.
but it's also interesting for what he was looking for, right?
Mhm.
So but so Vanita, so 48 hours was a great time because it forces everyone to focus and be efficient. Yep, that's what I loved about this hackathon. I know some of you were asking about, you know, our typical Topcoder, you know, code review and appeals, and obviously we didn't do that as part of the hackathon, or obviously other hackathons we've run. Did that affect you at all? Would you have wanted something more like that? I mean, anything around process, I'm obviously always up for knowing what you all think, because there is obviously standard things that we've educated everyone on, and then there's always the rule breaking hackathons that we come along with. So Robinson, the learning curve was great. You love more hackathons. Okay.
So I just want to pose a quick question for everyone. How was the documentation? Was it easy to go through documentation for Velo? Was it difficult? Did you go down a rabbit hole of just trying to figure out something? I'd love to hear you guys comment.
Yeah, so like, you know, Carm, obviously you went and found Editor X, Robinson, Vanita, were you able to jump in? Was the documentation, were you able to find what you needed to find, or did you guys have to hunt around for things? How was the documentation? And documentation was easy to go.
I have another question actually. So did you guys come into this hackathon with an initial impression about Velo, and did it change while you guys used Velo?
Okay. Yeah. One, yeah, did you guys have an impression about Velo and Wix? And then did anything change after your experience diving in and learning it? Okay. Documentation was extensive with images and links that made it easy to follow.
So the reason I asked that is because I was supporting in the forum for a lot of questions, and I could see that as the hackathon went on, there were different types of questions, and I could see that people were slowly getting more and more involved with the Velo API. So that was nice to see.
Okay, documentation was not straightforward with various use cases on transcription. So like how to actually do that.
Mhm.
And then visualizing the concept, a lot of using Wix Academy on YouTube.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think one of the pain points I think a lot of users have is that not all of the NPM modules that we have access to on the Velo site are well documented, just because we don't do the documentation on our side for like NPM to Velo. So that's definitely something that we're working on improving education around. So we're gonna hopefully be producing more content around how to utilize NPM packages in Velo to make it more transparent how the pattern, if you want to work with an NPM package in the Velo ecosystem.
Okay. Meredith, do you have, I think, any links or anything you want to share about Velo or what's coming up with Velo?
Yes. So I found the link.
Okay.
So we're actively working on building out our community for Velo, where we want to highlight a lot of user success and showcase what you're able to do with Velo, as well as get you opportunities to get onto the platform and start selling your services so you can become a full-time Velo developer. So one of those activities is building out our community leaders program. So if you really enjoyed this hackathon and want to be in the loop for more about what we're doing with hackathons, because we are planning a lot of hacks for 2022, which I can't believe is next year and in a month from now. We would definitely like to invite you to join up for our community or sign up for our community leaders program. I'm going to drop the link in the chat right now. So this will get you access to all of the latest activities that Velo is doing, as well as if you are really enjoying your time with Velo and want to share your experience, we're going to be doing activities with our community leaders, like inviting them to our YouTube channel, inviting them to blog with us, as well as getting you guys access to our product leaders so you can get first glances at the product and everything that's coming up with the product. So definitely would like to encourage you to join our community leaders if you are enjoying your time with Velo and want to learn more about how to use the platform and also create a business on Velo, because we'll be doing a lot with that as well. And if you're just more interested in kind of keeping up to date with the product and everything that's happening, definitely join our forum, which I've dropped the link to the forum as well. This will be more just for getting latest product updates, asking questions, and also hearing about events, because we do post all of the recordings from like our YouTube and any webinars that we do in the forum as well. So we just invite you to become part of our community and join us on our journey, because Velo is continuing to grow every single year. I've been with Wix for about 2 years now, and the product is so different from when I even started. So we really are growing the product and the community, and would love to invite you guys along for that journey to find more opportunities for freelance opportunities.
Awesome. Thank you. And everyone out there, please do let the Wix team know how great the hackathon was on Topcoder. So we'll do more hackathons with them, right? So continue to let them know. Go check out the community over there, sign up, jump in the forums, but also please do let Meredith and the team know how you'd like to see more hackathons on Topcoder. And then also we have a skill builder out there right now. So jump in and check that out. So more things to learn on Velo. Very excited to get more of all of you understanding Velo, JavaScript frameworks, and just growing your skills in this space. We have a few minutes left. If anybody has any other questions, I'm thinking probably maybe next time I do something like this, get more people on camera. But this is the technology we have, right? So any other questions? Thoughts? I hope everyone enjoyed it. I'm glad we were able to get together and actually kind of do a recap here and talk through them. Will there be any more challenges on Velo? So we do have the skill builder going, and then of course, we'd love to, but those are things that we got to talk through.
I know finding more creative usages of Velo, especially in like the machine learning realm, is something that we're really interested in doing in 2022. So something definitely to think about.
And definitely a sweet spot for Topcoder. Okay. Well, everyone, thank you for joining. Thank you to the judges. Thank you to Velo by Wix. I thought this was a lot of fun, and I was very happy that we were able to pull it off during the Topcoder Open, and of course, bring everyone something else, something else to be engaged with during the event. Very excited about our winners. Very excited about everyone who submitted. I thought, a massive amount of registrations, and of course, 20 plus submissions overall by all of you. And then, one thing I do want to say before, as we close out, as part of hackathons like this, I think some of you worked and maybe didn't submit. Always submit, right? Always submit what you have. There's four different areas of criteria for judging. Yes, that would have meant that the three of them would have had more things to look at, but the thing is, it's always good to share and contribute, if you spent the time on it, right? What I think some members gave up and didn't submit, and you kind of miss out on maybe just the opportunity for recognition, or an opportunity for someone to look at what you did. Because sometimes maybe the design might have been there, or maybe the development piece was there and the design wasn't. It's definitely good to always submit, especially if you've spent time during the hackathon, is my recommendation. So, okay. Well, thank you, everyone. We will get this posted out onto the site for anyone who didn't make it today. And then, of course, I think we can continue to take any questions in the challenge forum. And of course, if you have more questions for the Wix team, they are available, and I can always put you in contact. And as Meredith said, you can go to their site and sign up and learn more. Anything else from the three of you?
Not for me. Thanks for a great
Thank
hack,
you.
Topcoder.
Thank you guys, and I appreciate the work that you guys put into your projects. Like, we really took a time to like look through each one, and even if you didn't end up in the top 6 places or 5 places, sorry, I don't remember the number exactly,
6.
but
Six.
but you guys did a good job.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Everyone have a great day.
But
Bye guys.